and introduce myself quick while I get things pulled up, and then Adrienne can jump in. Gabe Dunbar, I'm the Assistant Director of the Radville Center. So great to be with you all. I've been here at BGSU for 5 years and previously worked with non-traditional and military student services and coordinated prior learning assessment. So I see some names in the room that I've worked with in the past capacity, but then was able to transition as we were building the life design program here at BGSU in 2020. And with Adrienne Ausdenmoore here.
Sounds good. Thanks, Gabe. I'm Adrienne Ausdenmoore. I'm the Executive Director of the Radville Center for College and Life Design. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay. I was having a little bit of trouble with Gabe and then it got okay, so I wanted to make sure it wasn't something on my end. Okay, great. And I started here at Bowling Green State University last January of 22. Prior to that, I had been at the University of Dayton, working there for about 18 years. So with that, the goal today is to give you a bit of an overview about our program and life design at BGSU and what that is looking like now. And then we've left time for some discussion, and Gabe will also talk about some next steps that we're offering for faculty and staff who might want a more hands-on approach or get a chance to try some things firsthand. So I'm going to start a little bit by just talking some about how we introduce life design to our students, particularly at orientation and other events like that. And so one of the things that we say to students is that you might hear a lot about life design and how it's a differentiator at Bowling Green State University and what that means. But what it doesn't mean is that we expect you to have your entire life designed and figured out before you even start college. Instead, when we talk about life design here, we're talking about it as wayfinding, and in particular, a set of tools that are going to help you as the student in those cases to feel empowered to design their future one step at a time. Because a lot of times college can feel like a checklist, whether they either have to have everything figured out or the idea that nothing is their choice, right? That it's all been prescribed for them. And so we really want to disrupt that analogy and instead have students thinking about college like a journey. We know that life is full of twists and turns. We've all experienced lots of unexpected things, especially in these last few years. And so if we are preparing our students for a world and a lifetime of change and innovation and adaptation, then how do we start to model that in the college experience? How do they start to model those skills? Think about how they're going to adapt and pivot along the way. And so with that, we talk about the analogy of a compass. So I know normally we're using GPS these days, but if we think about it instead like a compass, a GPS, we put in a very specific destination. We follow the instructions that Siri tells me on my phone, and I might feel a bit like, I don't know where I'm going, or I don't know why I'm here. I'm just following what has been told to me. And instead, we want our students to feel like they know what direction they're headed, that they have a true north, that they know what their goal is, but that there are multiple ways to get there, multiple paths. And even the final destination might look a little different by the time they get there. And so here at BGSU, we want them to think about this as their compass, right? So how do we build that compass? We want to focus on the whole student. And so that means not just their academic experience. Yes, the academic experience here is incredibly important. They're here to get a degree. In order to get a degree, you have to pass courses. In order to pass courses, you need to go to class. But we want them to feel really empowered to focus on these other aspects of their college experience as well. Gabe, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So we want them to maximize their academic experience. At the same time, we want our students to feel like they can prioritize their well-being, financial, spiritual, mental, physical, right? All that stuff outside of the classroom impacts the ways in which they're going to show up inside the classroom. We want them to make meaningful connections with their peers, with their faculty, with the organizations they get connected with, and also outside of the university as well. We want them to jumpstart their career, right? None of us want our students to wait until the day after graduation to be thinking about what that might mean from a career and job standpoint. But we also recognize that a lot of our students are going to end up in jobs that might not even exist now. So how do we challenge our students to prototype, try things out, explore the types of careers that they might be interested in, while at the same time building valuable skill sets that will help them in any career? And finally, we want our students to do all of that with a sense of purpose. We want them to understand why they're here at BGSU, what they're trying to accomplish, what's important to them, and do all of that with a sense of intention. And this tagline at the bottom is something that has been showing up a lot on our website and in some of our recruitment materials. The idea that life design prepares students for whatever the future holds. We want every student who leaves BGSU to be both career and life ready. And so with that, one of the things that we sometimes get asked is, well, what kind of students should be involved in life design? And there are certain programs of study, certain student populations that are auto-enrolled in the course and the curriculum, and we'll talk more about that later. But really just want to emphasize that the principle of life design can be really beneficial for any student. So if we think about these different types of students here on the left, we've got our undecided student, or as we like to call them here, deciding students. They are in the process of still making a decision. So students that are just really not sure what's the right path for them. They maybe haven't picked a major, they're questioning their major. Life design can help them really hone in on what they're interested in, the experiences that they've had, and then what that might mean for their academic path. We have students that are curious. Maybe they've picked a major or a path, they think they know where they're headed, but they have other interests. And so maybe they're a business major, but they're also really interested in sustainability, or they're really interested in certain types of nonprofits. And how might they connect those dots and really customize the experience and what that might look like for them? And then we also have our driven students. So we have students that are they've really set on a major, they've set on a career path, and they really just want to maximize that experience. They want to get strong connections on and off campus that really help them hone in on that. And the other thing about life design is that sometimes those driven students, something goes wrong or they hit an obstacle along the way. And so how do we also prepare them to navigate that when maybe that plan that they've laid out isn't going to look exactly like they thought it might? And so with that, I'm highlighting here just a few of our student stories. Each of these students have a full written profile on our website if you'd like to learn more about their story and how life design has impacted them. And also, to be clear, these students are very connected to the Radbill Center, but something, if you do check out their stories online, is that the impact didn't just happen in the Radbill Center and didn't just happen with a life design coach. It's really a combination of the people and experiences that they've been able to have. So we've got Devin here. He's a second-year student. He's a first-gen college student. He really didn't feel like he belonged at college. And so the skills that he built in life design and thinking about all the things I just highlighted really helped him find his place and build that sense of confidence. Our next student here, Katie. So Katie, I believe, is on major number 6. She actually came to BGSU from New York State for a very specific major. So she came very driven and then realized very quickly that path was not working for her and was not actually what she wanted to do. And so for her, she's also a second-year student. She's been able to kind of work her way through some different options and really started to feel like at least she had that support and reassurance, right? One of the things we talk a lot about is that you don't have to have everything figured out right now, but you are going to have to pick that next step. Here we've got Brianna. Brianna's in the Honors College. She is also in our AIMS program, and she has done some study abroad experiences. And so for her, she is really maximizing that experience here. And life design has really helped her connect those dots, right? See how a major in this area and an experience in this area and what that might look like for her, both just as a person and as a career in the future. And then our final student profile here that I just want to highlight a little bit is Nicole. So Nicole is a third-year student who's actually about to graduate. She is another student who's very set on a certain path. She really wants a doctorate degree. She wants to be, I believe, a clinical psychologist. And one of the things she's really navigating right now is the idea of what do you do when your GRE scores maybe aren't what you had hoped they were, or you're trying to get into a really prestigious program and you're not sure you're going to get into it. And I had a conversation with her last night, and it was just the level of kind of confidence and adaptability that we can hope for from all of our students, where she was like, Adrienne, I've got rejected from some schools. I'm still waiting to hear from a few. And she's like, you know, my family likes to tell me, oh, you'll get in, you'll get in. And she's like, but I know the reality that these are really prestigious programs and I might not. And if I don't, my plan is to go here, I'm going to work on a job here, and I'm ready to reapply next year. So just that idea that she feels really confident that she's going to figure it out, and that it isn't that everything is going to come true, unicorns and lollipops, but that she has that sense of confidence. Because all in all, one of the things we really try to emphasize with all of our students is that it's about building their BGSU team. And we hope that we in the Radville Center and life design coaches are a core part of a lot of students' team. But ultimately, we're just trying to get students to the people and places on campus that are right for them, right? The academic programs, the faculty mentors, do they need support in the learning commons? Are they working with their academic advisor to make sure they're meeting degree requirements? Are they exploring career opportunities? Are they getting engaged in organizations? Because as the next slide shows, life design is really designed as an ecosystem here. We hear President Rogers talk a lot about life design. And one of the things I really try to make sure is that when we talk about life design, it can't just be about the Radville Center. But there are two core areas that are at the center of this initiative, both part of the naming gifts that happened last spring. So the Radville Center for College and Life Design, that's us in here in the Math and Science building. Gabe will talk more about those details and what that means for coaching and our team. But we're one of the areas that gets introduced to a lot of students early on in their journey, right? To think about, again, those things, those facets of purpose and maximizing their academic experience and getting connected on campus. And then our Michael and Sarah Colleen Hub for Career Design and Connections is an expansion of the current Career Center. So Steve Russell is the AVP and Executive Director of the Colleen Hub. He just started. So you'll be hearing a lot more about the hub and that new vision for career design beyond what the traditional Career Center has perhaps offered in the past. But life design includes a lot of partners across campus. And so whether it's partnering on a BGSU 1910 course, whether it's integrating curriculum into another course or a co-curricular experience, everything from the faculty mentors that and staff that we'd like to connect with, our Thompson Scholarship Program works really closely with our area Marvin Center and their Lead 1000 course. We're working really closely with athletics right now. We've also got partners in TRIO and Ames and the Honors College and Generation Falcon program, among others. This list is growing quickly, especially over these last few weeks. But really just want to emphasize with this as I segue over to Gabe, that it's really about how do we build this culture of life design on campus. And it doesn't mean we're all life design robots that are going around saying it's all about life design. But what are we doing as a campus that helps foster this holistic approach to our students? With that, I'm going to pass it over to Gabe.
Thanks so much, Adrienne. Thanks for laying the groundwork there. I wanted to add on to that real quick, just in terms of the ecosystem and what life design has become and what it continues to be becoming. I want to make a note because I do know a lot of folks on this call have been around BGSU for several years. And so just want to point out that as this has been developed, right, even going back to 2019, 2020, COVID, all the uncertainty, all the questions, this program's development has been very unusual. And we've been unusually inwardly focused, right? Because we've been trying to figure out exactly how this is going to work, putting together the pieces. And now we are finally to the point where, especially with the center now, with a physical space and knowing more of the identity of the program and how it fits together with the rest of the campus, we are so excited to be able to have more of these conversations and to be able to answer some of the questions and curiosities that faculty and staff have had, frankly, for years, and maybe not always gotten the answers that they were looking for. So I just wanted to mention, kind of open with that caveat as I kind of transition to how the work is done under the overview that Adrienne just gave. So the work that our life design coaches do in the Radville Center are really threefold. So it focuses on one-on-one coaching. So students are connected to a life design coach. That is the person that is instructing the class. So there's also the teaching component. So BGSU 1910, where we talk about our life design concepts. But that same person that instructs that class is also a coach that follows them throughout their college experience. The class itself is really emphasizing the things that Adrienne mentioned, so designing their academic career and life experiences. It's small groups, so they're connecting in classes of about 20. We try to keep it around, and really building on design thinking skills, which is where the design term of our program comes from.
Now, depending on where students are coming from, some program participation, and like Adrienne mentioned with our deciding students, are enrolled automatically, but all students have an opportunity to engage with life design, whether they want to enroll in BGSU 1910 themselves, it's a 1-credit class, and or any student can also sign up for a conversation with a life design coach. So they don't have to, that's a question that comes up a lot of like, who is this exactly for? It's for everyone. We're at a point where we're able to serve about 1/3 of the incoming class and hoping to scale that to be able to serve more students, but any student is able to make an appointment with a life design coach. And we have a form on our website that we could show at the end. Wanted to show a little bit about the framework, kind of the theoretical framework behind this with design thinking. So you can see here, this is kind of our framework with design thinking and also our life design mindsets, because design thinking can be thought of both as a method and as mindset. And so you think about the ways that designers think and the ways that designers work. And also the ways that they interact with others. And so this work is really based on, I know Rock had mentioned, designing your life at the very beginning. So this work really stems from 2 designers who worked in industry using design thinking and had this realization of, hey, we should apply this towards life, right? This works as well. And so Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, who both worked at Apple and worked in design in other companies, then went to teach at Stanford, developed this course, and then wrote that book, Designing Your Life. But very clearly, our work is adapted from that content. But one of the misconceptions of our program is that we are teaching that book. And that is not the case. It is adapted from some of the work that Stanford has done, and also making it very specific to BGSU and the program that we are, because honestly, we are scaling this and doing this very different from Stanford. So I did want to mention that and just make sure that that was clear. In case folks aren't familiar with the design thinking process, it's simply a creative problem-solving framework. Like I say, it's been used in architecture, design, engineering for decades. So this isn't super new, but it is relatively new in terms of the applications, more so in education. There's a lot of interest in education. Business has been using this for decades. Also, social entrepreneurs and solving really complex social problems. That's really been adapting design thinking maybe in the last 15, 20 years. So some really neat innovations, and design thinking is really meant to do that. It's really meant to be an engine for innovation. And what's different about design thinking from other problem-solving frameworks or scientific methods or different things is that empathy piece, so that it's really focused on the human experience. And for us, it works really well because it really focuses on the student experience. And so for students to kind of accept where they are coming into the college experience, right? Empathize, thinking about who they are, some of the identity work, right? We want students to be really familiar with who they are. Defining some of the problems they're facing. Sometimes students are stuck and aren't really sure why. So we really lean into some creative ways to problem find before they problem solve, because I think sometimes students generally jump too quickly, right? Maybe we all do that, right? We jump to the problem or the solution without really thinking about what the problem is. Creating some really great ideas, ideating ideas. And that's where sometimes students don't know what they don't know. And so that's where this model with having a life design coach come alongside of them, we can help infiltrate some ideas, right? Like, did you know faculty have office hours? Oh, okay, like go talk with them, right? You're struggling with this course, did you know there's tutoring, right? So being able to sprinkle in some of the ideas that we know already exist for BGSU, but they may not know yet. Helping encourage them to prototype then, so to actually go try those things, and then to test those and to say, hey, how did that work out? Did that help? Are you more on track? Do you have any other questions? And this is a very iterative process, right? Although I just talked about it kind of in a complete cycle, students go back and forth depending on when they have roadblocks or when they have questions, and we're able to help along the way. These are the 6 mindsets that I briefly mentioned, but so these are kind of the micro building blocks of thinking like a designer. And so thinking about how students share their story, how they're curious, how they're reframing, look at things from a different perspective, collaborating with peers, faculty, staff, and others, taking action, and also embracing the process, knowing that college and life is a process and we have to learn how to navigate that. The title, as we're 15, 20 minutes into this, and we talked about life design pedagogy, as you all are really thinking about teaching and learning, we did want to highlight this, and hopefully you all are still hanging on with us. I did want to highlight just a couple of unique things that we really try to do in terms of our life design pedagogy. I mentioned small class sizes. We really find that this is a really important piece to be able to keep students relationally focused, right? To be able to connect with other students. And we've had great success in students who, over their first semester, really create some core bonds in that class that extends them over. I think we find that some students who do leave BGSU, you know, after a semester or after a year, one of the very familiar concepts or one of the very familiar themes is I just didn't meet anybody. I didn't connect anybody. I don't know anybody. So we want them to know others and we want them to be known. It is peer supported learning. So we do have a peer, a life design peer ambassador position and role. So we have undergraduate students, some of whom Adrienne highlighted earlier, who are actually in the class with us. And as students connect with each other and maybe a little bit more relevant peer advice and support, they're not teaching formally, but more informally answering questions, asking students for or pointing them to resources, doing some other things outside the class. It is very collaborative learning, so we do a lot of project and problem-based learning. Generally, our students are in groups of 4 or 5 and generally go through class in that way. We have a lot of activities, so generally our class flows, you know, a little bit of content, maybe introducing one of the life design concepts or design thinking, but then they are wrestling and working together in their groups to be able to answer that. Lots of hands-on activities and to be able to really problem solve together. And then one of the unique aspects is that teaching and learning extends beyond the confines of the classroom, right? Because of our unique role, we're able to step into the classroom and deliver that content, but then students are also part of that course. They're also meeting with us, doing that one-on-one coaching. So we do have that embedded into the course, which means that we are really able to lean into this as an equity piece, right? We really think about life design in this program as an equitable process for all students, because no matter where students are, no matter their identities, no matter their background, as they come into the life design program in terms of BGSU 1910 and this life design coach connection, we're assuring them that they're getting the same experience that any other student in life design is getting. And so it's a really exciting idea that we're able to do that. And that is why we're really interested in scaling this to more students very quickly. I think we have a few minutes. We talked about this new space in the Radbill Center. We just wanted to show a quick highlight. This video has been around on social media and on the website, but for those of you who maybe haven't been able to make it over to the Radbill Center, it's the 3rd floor of the math science building. So if you haven't been over, this might look a little different to you because this is where the old math library was in math science. 3rd and 4th floor were connected with a staircase. They took the staircase out and then built this beautiful space. But it's very focused on collaboration, very focused on students. And so just wanted to share this with you for just a minute.
Within the Life Design program, BGSU students learn to maximize their academic experience, prioritize their well-being, make connections, and jumpstart their careers before graduation. The Life Design program is based on design thinking tools and life design mindsets. Students explore what they want to do and who they want to become. And if plans change, they have the toolkit to pivot and design their way forward. The Radbill Center for College and Life Design is an inclusive space for all BGSU students, where anyone is welcome to meet with a life design coach, attend our programming, or use the space to study, meet up, or just relax. Through its architecture and mix of public and private spaces, the center promotes the key mindsets of life design, particularly collaboration. Rooms are strategically located around the perimeter of the space, available to students and used for one-on-one coaching. The Life Design Lab offers a dedicated space for classes, workshops, and other events. Life Design is redefining student success here at BGSU. We strive to prepare our students for whatever their future holds, graduating both career and life ready.
Okay, and then lastly, trying to advance my slide here, sorry. Here we go. Lastly, before we turn it over to questions, so as some of you have burning questions or curiosities, we'll turn it over to you all in just a minute and kind of open this up. But we understand and we know that this, for life design to be successful, it cannot just be in the Radbill Center and the Cooling Hub, right? We want this to be a collaborative program, a collaborative initiative that is woven throughout campus. And so what we're really excited to share with you all today is we've just launched a faculty and staff affiliate program. So for those of you who are interested, those of you who are curious, who would like to learn more, who would like to see it, feel it, taste it, right? We wanted to create that type of experience because there's it's one thing to sit through a 20-minute Zoom lecture. It's another thing to come into our space, to come into our lab, and to really be able to experience some of the things that our students are experiencing. And so there are a couple of pieces floating around the website. We're happy to share that as well. But we have two intro 1-hour workshops geared towards faculty and staff, one in March and one in April, that really give you a 60-minute deep dive, a little bit about what we covered today, but a little bit more hands-on, that you all will be working with other faculty and staff, similar to some of the exercises or things that we put students through. And then that's kind of the introduction, and then moving to a faculty and staff affiliate program. So folks that see more of a connection with this and their work, whether it's in the classroom, outside the classroom, working with students, whatever that might be, of more of a full day retreat or a series of workshops to be able to really understand more comprehensively and more intensively the work that we do and how you can incorporate that in your teaching pedagogy, in your classroom, in the work that you do. But just wanted to mention that we can chat about that in terms of questions and conversations as well. And let's just open it up for questions. I'll stop sharing so we can see each other. And I see a couple things in the chat. And if folks want to unmute too, that is great.
So again, if anyone has a question, we have plenty of time for questions, and hopefully I'll start, I guess, Gabe. If you're an incoming freshman, how are you made aware that life design is an option for you? Like, how do you know where to turn?
I'll hand it over to Adrienne on this, because you get to meet Adrienne at every orientation date.
Yes, I was gonna say, so one of the core presentations at orientation is about life design, and also just getting acclimated to the BGSU experience and academics and what that means. And so it's introduced to all students at that point. One of the things, I was just having this conversation this morning, is that we're hoping this summer that we are able to provide clearer information sooner about the ways that students might be engaged. So for example, a lot of our business students, I know there's some business folks here on the call, are not auto-enrolled in BGSU 1910. Business students take BA 1500. So one of the things I'm working on with Jean Percival right now is sort of how do some of those pieces get integrated. And so one of the things we want to help make sure students understand that in some cases they might be auto-enrolled in BGSU 1910 and automatically assigned a life design coach. In other areas, they might get introduced to some of the concepts in another first-year course that's part or cohort that they're part of. But then, as Gabe said, then they can certainly always opt into a coach if they'd like that more one-on-one experience with our team. And I think one other piece I'll just jump in and add for this discussion as well is happy to answer any questions folks might have about the program or how it works, but I'm also very interested in what you all are seeing with your students. So as you're thinking about your teaching and learning, and even the life design mindsets that we talk about, which in many ways are a growth mindset, I think we're also eager to know more about what you're seeing with your students, about where they might be facing challenges or where you're facing challenges. Again, thinking about how we can all work together to make sure that we're providing the best experience for our students as possible.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Anyone on the call have a?
Yeah, let me hop in for a second. Thank you so much for the presentation. I really appreciate it. Is there a way as faculty members that we can refer students that we think would really benefit from this? So maybe our students in the College of Business don't know about it, or at least aren't super aware. If I can pinpoint this student is having some difficulties, can I do a referral?
Yeah, great question. Thank you, Jennifer. Yes, and in some ways you already are referring students, maybe without noticing. So one piece that I didn't mention is that our life design coaches are also outreach coordinators, which means that we are the ones following up with students who are connected to us, either through class or as a life design coach, right? We're following up on those early alerts that faculty are inputting. So hopefully faculty have kind of gotten a picture of kind of that whole system, but that also ties to us in terms of how we're following up with those students. So thank you to those faculty that did students submit early alerts. It is so helpful, and we are building this system to be able to do that. We're not the only outreach coordinators who follow up with students, but that is really helpful. Then the other piece, maybe a more formal way, is through an interest form that Adrienne just put in the chat. So there's a couple things that she has put in the chat in case folks don't have that open that you might want to take a look at. The life design faculty and staff workshops, just our overall website, but also the interest form. And so that is where any student can submit an interest form to say, hey, I'd like to meet with a life design coach. We have a couple of just questions, just kind of giving us a sense of what they're looking for, and to make sure that it's a good fit, that we're able to help them. And or sometimes, you know, it may be something that a student is really going through crisis, right? And we're able to really escalate them or really push them and encourage them to go to either counseling center, or we're very connected to our emergency intervention team in partnership with the Dean of Students. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I'll just add to it. I mean, the interest form, a student can always fill that out, and students do. But as a faculty member, you're also welcome to reach out and email us at lifedesign@bgsu.edu. You can also do a referral and navigate. I'm not sure how often faculty use that as a method. But I think one of the things that we just ask is, if you refer a student to us, we're happy to follow up. But we do like to be able to say why we're reaching out to that student. So, you know, so it helps if you've had a conversation with the student that says, I think you'd benefit from a conversation with a life design coach, so that we're not sending just a random message that says, somebody told us you might need something. But yeah, again, happy to help field those referrals. We've had some really great conversations even in the last few weeks as a result of some faculty referrals.
And I was going to mention too, I just threw my email in there as well, because I do know sometimes on campus it's helpful to have a point person or a specific person to connect with. And as I've transitioned from a life design coach role into an assistant director role, one of my focuses is campus partnerships. And so if you do have any particular questions or kind of like, oh, life design, like who should I go to? Please feel comfortable to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to help figure out where that question might come from, or the answer, or connecting students with one of our life design coaches.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate that.
Of course.
I know it's almost 20 after. I know some of you might have to get to your 11:30 classes, but any other questions for Adrienne or Gabe before we call me? I'll just say thank you so much for being available this morning. It's really beneficial for us to learn what you're up to and how we fit in. And I personally learned quite a bit just in the few minutes that you shared with us. So thank you. And hopefully maybe we can make this an annual event that we can get together and get updates from you as to what's going on. I think that'd be really great. But anyone else, last questions before we go? Jan's saying she's good. All right, well, thank you so much on behalf of the Committee for the Advancement of Teaching and Learning. We really appreciate you making time for us. So thanks again.
Thank you.
See you
Thanks,
around.
Rob. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all for attending. This will be available and it'll be in the cloud, so I'll share the link with all of you. Thank you.